In a tense courtroom showdown, an 8-year-old girl's secret signal to her loyal dog sparks a chain reaction that leaves the judge and everyone else stunned. In a small, bustling courtroom in the heart of an American city, tension crackled through the air like static electricity. The room was packed with spectators, family members, reporters, and curious onlookers, all craning their necks to catch a glimpse of what was unfolding before them. At the center of it all sat Sarah Miller, a precocious 8-year-old girl with wide blue eyes that seemed too innocent for such a somber setting. She clutched her favorite stuffed bear tightly in one hand, while nervously twisting a strand of blonde hair around her finger with the other. Sarah's presence in court wasn't by choice. Her father, James Miller, stood accused of endangerment after a neighbor reported seeing him leave Sarah alone at home late at night. While some argued he'd simply been running a quick errand, others believed this case represented something more sinister, a pattern of neglect. Today, Sarah had been called as a witness against her own father, a task far heavier than any child should bear. The judge, Honorable Judge Margaret Whittaker, presided over the proceedings with stern authority, but not without compassion. A seasoned veteran of the bench, she had seen countless cases involving children and knew how delicate these situations could be. Still, nothing could have prepared her, or anyone else in the courtroom, for what was about to happen. As Sarah took the stand, accompanied by a kind social worker who whispered words of encouragement into her ear, all eyes turned toward her. But there was another figure in the room drawing almost as much attention. Max, Sarah's loyal golden retriever. Because of special arrangements made by Sarah's attorney, Max had been allowed to sit quietly near the witness box, providing emotional support for his young companion. To many observers, Max looked just like any well-trained service dog, calm, attentive, and unassuming. Yet those closest to Sarah knew better. Max wasn't just a pet. He was her confidant, protector, and best friend. Max had been trained extensively from puppyhood to respond to specific commands and signals, most of which only Sarah understood fully. Over the years, they had developed a unique bond, communicating through subtle gestures and sounds that often went unnoticed by others. This connection would prove pivotal in the moments to come. The courtroom fell into an eerie silence as Sarah Miller approached the witness stand, her small frame barely visible above the wooden railing. She clutched her stuffed bear tightly against her chest, its worn fabric a testament to years of comfort and companionship. Her knuckles were white, betraying the anxiety coursing through her tiny body. Every step she took seemed deliberate yet hesitant, as though each movement required summoning every ounce of courage within her. The social worker who had accompanied her to the stand placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, whispering softly, "You're doing great, sweetheart. Just take your time." Despite these words of encouragement, Sarah's eyes darted nervously around the room, scanning faces that ranged from sympathetic to skeptical. Her gaze lingered momentarily on her father, James Miller, seated beside his attorney at the defendant's table. He offered her a faint smile, but it did little to ease the tension etched across her face. To Sarah, this wasn't just another day in court. It was a battlefield where she felt torn between two worlds: the love she had for her father and the truth she knew she needed to share. When Sarah finally settled into the witness chair, adjusting herself so she could sit comfortably while still holding onto her bear, the prosecutor stood up and addressed her gently. "Sarah," he began, his tone warm yet firm, "can you tell us what happened on the night your father left you alone?" His question hung in the air like a heavy cloud, pressing down on everyone in the room. For a moment, Sarah simply stared at him, her lips trembling slightly as if trying to form words, but unable to push them past the lump in her throat. I don't remember," she stammered eventually, her voice barely audible over the hum of anticipation filling the courtroom. It was clear from her demeanor that she wasn't being entirely truthful, or perhaps she simply couldn't bring herself to articulate the events of that fateful evening. Her fingers twisted anxiously around a strand of blonde hair, pulling it taut before releasing it again. The prosecutor nodded patiently, leaning forward slightly as if to bridge the gap between them. "That's okay, Sarah," he reassured her. "Just tell us whatever you do remember. No matter how small it seems, it might help us understand what happened." His attempt to coax information out of her only deepened her discomfort. She glanced once more toward her father, whose expression remained neutral but tinged with concern. Then, almost instinctively, her eyes drifted downward to Max, her golden retriever, who sat quietly near the witness box. Max's presence had been permitted under special circumstances due to his role as an emotional support animal, and now, more than ever, Sarah found solace in knowing he was close by. As the prosecutor continued to probe gently, asking follow-up questions about her routine and whether she felt safe when left alone, Sarah's responses grew shorter and more evasive. "I guess I was okay," she murmured at one point, her voice trailing off into uncertainty. But beneath the surface, something else was brewing, a silent communication unfolding right under everyone's noses. Unbeknownst to anyone except Sarah and Max, a secret signal passed between them, imperceptible to the untrained eye. With a subtle shift of her foot beneath the table, Sarah tapped twice against the floorboards, a gesture so slight it could easily have gone unnoticed. Yet to Max, it carried immense significance. Trained since puppyhood to respond to specific cues from his young companion, Max recognized the signal immediately. His ears perked up ever so slightly, and his tail wagged once in acknowledgement. To anyone watching casually, it might have appeared as nothing more than a dog reacting naturally to his surroundings. But for Sarah, it was a lifeline, a reminder that she wasn't alone in this daunting situation. The prosecutor paused briefly, sensing the girl's growing unease. "Is there anything else you'd like to add, Sarah?" he asked kindly, giving her space to elaborate if she chose to. But Sarah shook her head, her shoulders hunching slightly as if trying to make herself smaller. Her silence spoke volumes, though, and it wasn't lost on Judge Whittaker, who leaned forward slightly in her seat. "Take your time, sweetheart," the judge interjected, her voice imbued with compassion. "There's no rush. Just say what you know." These words, intended to reassure, seemed to weigh heavily on Sarah instead. She bit her lower lip, tears welling up in her wide blue eyes as conflicting emotions battled within her. Loyalty to her father warred with the knowledge that telling the truth might mean consequences neither of them wanted to face. It was during this tense standoff that Max made his move, not abruptly or dramatically, but with purposeful grace. Rising from his position near the witness box, he padded silently toward Sarah, stopping directly in front of her. His calm demeanor belied the urgency of his mission. Everyone in the courtroom froze, unsure of what to make of this unexpected development. Was the dog merely seeking attention, or was there something deeper at play? "What is going on here?" demanded the defense attorney, rising indignantly from his seat. "This is highly irregular." His protest echoed through the room, drawing murmurs of agreement from some spectators. Yet before anyone could intervene further, Max executed the next phase of their unspoken plan. With practiced precision, he nudged Sarah's leg gently, urging her to look up. When she finally met his gaze, tears streaming silently down her cheeks, Max let out a low, deliberate whine, a sound distinctly different from his usual playful bark. To those unfamiliar with their relationship, it might have seemed random or even disruptive. But to Sarah, it was everything. Encouraged by Max's unwavering support, Sarah straightened her posture and wiped away her tears. Taking a deep breath, she began speaking again, this time with newfound resolve. "My daddy didn't mean to scare me," she admitted softly, her voice steadier than before. "He thought I'd be okay because Max was with me. And Max always keeps me safe." Her revelation sent shockwaves through the courtroom, eliciting gasps and murmurs from the audience. Even Judge Whittaker appeared momentarily stunned, leaning back in her chair as if processing the unexpected turn of events. For the first time since the trial began, the atmosphere shifted, not toward judgment, but toward understanding. The bond between Sarah and Max transcended mere companionship. It was a partnership built on trust, loyalty, and mutual protection. And in that pivotal moment, it became clear that Max wasn't just a pet. He was a guardian angel in fur. The prosecutor exchanged a glance with Sarah's attorney, both men recognizing the significance of what had transpired. The defense attorney, however, looked flustered, unsure of how to counteract the emotional weight of Sarah's testimony. Meanwhile, James Miller sat rigidly in his seat, his expression unreadable as he absorbed his daughter's words. Whether he felt relief, guilt, or pride was impossible to discern, but one thing was certain. Sarah's admission had changed the trajectory of the case. For Sarah, the act of speaking her truth, even partially, was cathartic. With Max standing steadfastly by her side, she felt emboldened to continue sharing details of her life, painting a picture of resilience and adaptability. "Max sleeps in my room when Daddy has to go out," she explained, her voice gaining strength with each sentence. "He stays awake until Daddy comes back. Sometimes we play games or read books together. Max makes sure nothing bad happens." These revelations humanized the situation, shifting the narrative from one of neglect to one of resourcefulness and care. While leaving a child alone overnight was undeniably risky, the presence of Max introduced a mitigating factor that complicated the prosecution's argument. The dog wasn't just a passive observer. He was an active participant in ensuring Sarah's safety and well-being. As Sarah wrapped up her testimony, the courtroom buzzed with subdued energy. Reporters scribbled furiously in their notebooks, capturing every detail of the unprecedented interaction between girl and dog. Spectators whispered among themselves, debating the implications of Max's intervention and whether it constituted misconduct or brilliance. Some praised the cleverness of Sarah's strategy, while others questioned the ethics of allowing such nonverbal communication to influence legal proceedings. Judge Whittaker, ever the arbiter of order, raised her hand to quiet the growing buzz. "Order. Order in the court," she commanded firmly, rapping her gavel sharply against its base. Once silence returned, she addressed Sarah directly. "Young lady, does your dog help protect you when you're scared?" she asked, her curiosity evident despite her composed exterior. Sarah nodded shyly, clutching Max's leash as if drawing strength from his presence. "Yes, Your Honor," she replied. "When Daddy leaves, Max stays with me. He makes sure nothing bad happens." Her candid response struck a chord with everyone present, including the judge herself. After a brief pause, Judge Whittaker announced, "I am calling a recess. We will reconvene after consulting with counsel regarding this unique development." As bailiffs ushered people out of the courtroom, conversations erupted once more, each person eager to dissect the implications of what they'd just witnessed. What had started as a routine line of questioning had transformed into a profound exploration of trust, communication, and the extraordinary bonds that can exist between humans and animals. In the span of a few minutes, Sarah and Max had not only altered the course of the trial, but also reminded everyone present of the power of unconditional love and unwavering loyalty. The courtroom, already tense from Sarah's halting testimony, was plunged into chaos when Max, the golden retriever who had been quietly stationed near the witness box, suddenly sprang into action. What began as a subtle tap of Sarah's foot beneath the table, a gesture so discreet it could easily have gone unnoticed, quickly escalated into one of the most unprecedented moments in the history of the small-town courthouse. For those unfamiliar with the deep bond between Sarah and her loyal companion, Max's movements might have seemed spontaneous or even disruptive. But to Sarah, they were deliberate, calculated, and deeply meaningful. Max takes center stage. It all started with that first nudge. After receiving Sarah's secret signal, a barely perceptible double tap against the floorboards, Max rose from his position with an elegance that belied his size. His golden coat gleamed under the fluorescent lights of the courtroom, drawing immediate attention as he padded silently toward Sarah. Every step he took radiated purpose, yet there was no aggression or urgency in his demeanor. Instead, He moved with the calm assurance of a protector fulfilling his duty. To the untrained eye, Max's behavior might have appeared ordinary, a dog merely seeking affection or responding to his surroundings. However, for Sarah and anyone attuned to their unique connection, it was clear that something extraordinary was unfolding. As Max neared the witness stand, spectators began whispering among themselves. Some leaned forward in their seats, craning their necks to get a better view, while others exchanged puzzled glances, unsure of what to make of this unexpected development. Even the judge, Honorable Judge Margaret Whittaker, furrowed her brow slightly, her curiosity piqued by the sudden movement. "What is going on here?" demanded the defense attorney, rising indignantly from his seat. His voice cut through the murmurs like a knife, echoing off the walls of the packed courtroom. "This is highly irregular." He gestured emphatically toward Max, as if accusing the dog of some grave misconduct. His outburst only heightened the tension in the room, prompting more hushed conversations and speculative looks from the crowd. But Max paid no heed to the commotion swirling around him. With unwavering focus, he stopped directly in front of Sarah, positioning himself close enough to offer comfort without obstructing her view. His ears perked up ever so slightly, and his tail wagged slowly, conveying both alertness and affection. To those watching, it seemed almost as though Max were communicating silently with Sarah, offering reassurance and encouragement in a way that transcended words. A low whine speaks volumes. Then came the sound that would leave everyone in the courtroom stunned, a low, deliberate whine emitted by Max. It wasn't the playful bark he might let out during a game of fetch, nor was it the anxious whimper of a dog seeking attention. This was different, an intentional vocalization designed to convey empathy and support. To Sarah, it was a lifeline, a reminder that she wasn't alone in this daunting situation. When Sarah finally looked down at Max, their eyes met in a moment of profound understanding. Tears streamed silently down her cheeks, but there was a newfound resolve in her expression. Encouraged by Max's presence and his gentle insistence, she straightened her posture and wiped away her tears. Taking a deep breath, she began speaking again, this time with a clarity and confidence that had been absent just moments earlier. "My daddy didn't mean to scare me," she admitted softly, her voice steadier than before. "He thought I'd be okay because Max was with me. And Max always keeps me safe." Her words sent shockwaves through the courtroom, eliciting gasps and murmurs from the audience. Spectators exchanged bewildered looks, some nodding sympathetically while others whispered theories about whether Max's intervention constituted misconduct or brilliance. Reporters scribbled furiously in their notebooks, capturing every detail of the unprecedented interaction between girl and dog. Even Judge Whittaker appeared momentarily stunned, leaning back in her chair as if processing the unexpected turn of events. The ripple effect. For the prosecution, Sarah's revelation complicated their case significantly. While leaving a child alone overnight was undeniably risky, the presence of Max introduced a mitigating factor that shifted the narrative. The dog wasn't just a passive observer. He was an active participant in ensuring Sarah's safety and well-being. His actions demonstrated not only loyalty, but also intelligence and training, qualities that underscored his role as a guardian rather than a mere pet. The defense attorney, meanwhile, struggled to regain composure after his initial outburst. Flustered and visibly thrown off balance by the turn of events, he muttered something to James Miller, who sat rigidly in his seat, his expression unreadable. Whether he felt relief, guilt, or pride was impossible to discern, but one thing was certain: Sarah's admission, and Max's pivotal role in facilitating it, had changed the trajectory of the case. Judge Whittaker, ever the arbiter of order, raised her hand to quiet the growing buzz. "Order. Order in the court," she commanded firmly, rapping her gavel sharply against its base. Once silence returned, she addressed Sarah directly. "Young lady, does your dog help protect you when you're scared?" she asked, her curiosity evident despite her composed exterior. Sarah nodded shyly, clutching Max's leash as if drawing strength from his presence. "Yes, Your Honor," she replied. "When Daddy leaves, Max stays with me. He makes sure nothing bad happens." Her candid response struck a chord with everyone present, including the judge herself. After a brief pause, Judge Whittaker announced, "I am calling a recess. We will reconvene after consulting with counsel regarding this unique development." As bailiffs ushered people out of the courtroom, conversations erupted once more, each person eager to dissect the implications of what they'd just witnessed. Reflections on the moment. What made Max's interruption so remarkable wasn't just its novelty. It was the depth of emotion and trust it revealed. In a setting where adults often dominate the discourse, a child and her dog managed to command attention and shift perspectives in ways no one anticipated. Max's actions highlighted the power of nonverbal communication and the profound bonds that can exist between humans and animals. They also underscored the importance of considering context and nuance in legal proceedings, particularly when children are involved. For Sarah, Max's intervention was more than just a comforting gesture, it was validation. In a world where she often felt powerless, her dog gave her the courage to speak her truth. And for the courtroom observers, it served as a poignant reminder of the resilience and resourcefulness that can emerge in the face of adversity. As the recess began and the courtroom emptied, reporters swarmed outside, eager to capture reactions from those involved. Meanwhile, Sarah clung tightly to Max's leash, her fingers intertwined with his fur. Though still visibly shaken, she wore a faint smile, buoyed by the knowledge that she had told her story, not alone, but with the steadfast support of her best friend. In that fleeting moment, amidst the chaos and uncertainty, Max had become more than just a dog. He was a symbol of unconditional love, loyalty, and the extraordinary lengths to which we go to protect those we care about most. The ripple effects of Sarah's testimony, and Max's pivotal role in it, reverberated throughout the courtroom long after Judge Whittaker called for a recess. The dramatic turn of events had left everyone present grappling with a mix of emotions: surprise, confusion, admiration, and even skepticism. As spectators filed out into the hallway and reporters scrambled to document the scene, the atmosphere buzzed with animated conversations and whispered theories. What had unfolded was unlike anything most people had ever witnessed in a legal setting, and its implications were far-reaching. A room divided. In the moments following Judge Whittaker's decision to pause the proceedings, the courtroom became a microcosm of conflicting perspectives. On one side, there were those who viewed Max's intervention as an extraordinary example of human-animal partnership, a testament to the depth of trust and communication that can exist between a child and her dog. These individuals saw beauty in the simplicity of Sarah's bond with Max, arguing that it highlighted the importance of context in cases involving children. "That dog saved her," one woman remarked tearfully to her companion as they exited the room. "He didn't just keep her company, he gave her the courage to speak." On the other hand, skeptics questioned whether allowing such nonverbal cues to influence a trial set a dangerous precedent. Could emotional support animals now be considered active participants in legal proceedings? Was this a breach of protocol or an innovative way to ensure justice? The defense attorney, still visibly flustered, muttered under his breath about unfair advantages and manipulation of evidence. Meanwhile, the prosecutor exchanged quiet words with his team, debating how best to proceed given the unexpected twist. Even among members of the jury pool, who had been excused earlier but remained nearby, opinions varied widely. Some praised Sarah's bravery and Max's intuitive response, while others expressed concern over the potential impact on the case's outcome. One juror leaned over to another and said, "It's hard to argue against a dog like that. How do you cross-examine loyalty?" Media frenzy outside the courthouse. As news of the courtroom drama spread, reporters stationed outside the courthouse sprang into action. Cameras flashed, microphones were thrust forward, and questions flew at anyone willing to comment. Lawyers, family members, and even courthouse staff found themselves mobbed by journalists eager to capture sound bites. While James Miller declined to speak publicly, Sarah's mother, who had arrived late due to work commitments, was cornered by reporters near the entrance. "He's not just a pet," she explained, referring to Max. "That dog is part of our family. He's been with Sarah since she was 4 years old, and he knows her better than anyone else does. If anyone could help her through something like this, it's him." Her words struck a chord with many bystanders, reinforcing the idea that Max wasn't merely an accessory to the story. He was central to it. Meanwhile, animal behavior experts began weighing in via live broadcasts and social media. Some praised Max's training and ability to respond to subtle signals, likening him to service dogs used in therapy or search and rescue operations. Others speculated about the ethical considerations of incorporating animals so deeply into legal processes. "This is uncharted territory," one expert noted during a televised interview. "But it raises important questions about how we define support systems and what constitutes meaningful assistance in high-stress situations." The media frenzy reached a fever pitch when footage of Max nudging Sarah and letting out his deliberate whine surfaced online. Within hours, hashtags like #MaxTheHeroDog and #CourageWithPaws began trending across platforms, turning the trial into a national conversation about the intersection of law, emotion, and animal companionship. Memes featuring Max alongside captions like "Best Boy Ever" flooded timelines, further cementing the golden retriever's status as an unlikely hero. Behind closed doors, legal consultations. While the public debated the significance of Max's actions, Judge Whittaker convened privately with both legal teams to discuss next steps. The judge, known for her pragmatism and fairness, acknowledged the complexity of the situation. "We have a unique circumstance here," she began, addressing the attorneys. "A child has relied heavily on her emotional support animal, not only for comfort, but also for encouragement to testify truthfully. This complicates matters, but it doesn't negate the validity of her statements." The prosecution argued that Sarah's admission, facilitated though it may have been by Max, provided critical insight into the dynamics of the household. They emphasized that neglect cases often hinge on understanding the nuances of daily life, particularly when children are involved. "Max isn't fabricating facts," the lead prosecutor asserted. "He's simply helping Sarah articulate what she already knows to be true." The defense countered by pointing out that Max's presence might have unduly influenced Sarah's narrative, potentially swaying her toward portraying her father in a more sympathetic light. "We're not disputing the bond between them," the defense attorney conceded, "but we must consider whether this interaction compromised the integrity of the testimony." Judge Whittaker listened intently, weighing each argument carefully before delivering her verdict on how to proceed. Ultimately, she ruled that Max's involvement did not invalidate Sarah's account, but rather underscored the need for compassion and flexibility in handling sensitive cases. She instructed both sides to adjust their strategies accordingly, ensuring that the focus remained on Sarah's well-being rather than procedural technicalities. Public reaction and reflection. Back inside the courtroom, spectators returned from the recess with renewed interest in the proceedings. Seats filled quickly, and latecomers crowded along the walls, unwilling to miss a moment of what promised to be a landmark conclusion. Conversations continued in hushed tones, with many marveling at the day's events. "I've never seen anything like it," one man whispered to his neighbor. "That dog knew exactly what to do. It's almost like he understood the gravity of the situation." Others reflected on broader themes, such as the role of animals in human lives and the way society addresses issues of parental responsibility. Some voiced frustration with the system, suggesting that cases like Sarah's highlighted systemic failures in supporting struggling families. "Why are we punishing parents instead of helping them?" one woman asked aloud, prompting nods of agreement from those around her. If Max hadn't been there, would Sarah have felt safe enough to speak up? For Sarah herself, the attention was overwhelming yet validating. Though initially hesitant to re-enter the spotlight, she drew strength from Max's unwavering presence beside her. Clutching his leash tightly, she faced the room with a quiet determination that belied her young age. To her, Max wasn't just a symbol of loyalty. He was proof that love transcends language and circumstance, offering solace in even the darkest moments. A moment of humanity. What made the aftermath of Max's intervention so remarkable wasn't just its novelty. It was the humanity it revealed. In a setting often characterized by rigid rules and formalities, a child and her dog managed to remind everyone present of the power of connection, empathy, and resilience. Their story served as a poignant counterpoint to the cold logic of the law, urging observers to look beyond statutes and precedents to see the individuals at the heart of every case. As Judge Whittaker reconvened the session and invited the attorneys to resume their arguments, the tone of the courtroom shifted noticeably. Gone was the adversarial edge that had dominated earlier exchanges. In its place was a sense of shared purpose, an acknowledgement that justice isn't always black and white, but sometimes requires embracing shades of gray. And at the center of it all stood Sarah and Max, two unlikely figures whose bond had transformed not just a trial, but also the way people thought about trust, courage, and the lengths we go to protect those we love. The culmination of Sarah's trial unfolded with a blend of legal pragmatism and deeply human compassion, leaving an indelible mark on everyone involved. As the final arguments were presented and Judge Whittaker delivered her ruling, it became clear that this case was about far more than just one family's struggles. It was a testament to resilience, empathy, and the extraordinary bonds between humans and animals. Judge Whittaker's compassionate ruling. When Judge Margaret Whittaker finally addressed the courtroom, her voice carried both authority and warmth. After carefully considering the evidence, testimony, and unique circumstances surrounding Sarah's life, including Max's pivotal role in ensuring her safety, the judge opted for leniency rather than punishment. She acknowledged the complexities of James Miller's situation, recognizing that his actions stemmed not from malice, but from a misguided belief that he had provided adequate safeguards for his daughter. "Mr. Miller," Judge Whittaker began, addressing Sarah's father directly, "your intentions may have been rooted in care, but leaving the child alone overnight is inherently risky and unacceptable under the law. However, I cannot ignore the mitigating factors brought to light today, particularly the presence of Max, who has clearly played an integral role in keeping Sarah safe. Instead of imposing severe penalties, such as jail time or loss of custody, Judge Whittaker ordered James to enroll in mandatory parenting classes aimed at teaching better decision-making skills and stress management techniques. Additionally, she mandated regular check-ins with Child Protective Services to ensure Sarah's ongoing well-being. The ruling struck a delicate balance, holding James accountable while giving him the tools to improve as a parent. Turning her attention to Sarah, Judge Whittaker added, "Young lady, you've shown remarkable bravery today, and your bond with Max speaks volumes about the strength of your character. You should be proud of how you handled yourself in what must have been an incredibly difficult situation." Her words drew a small smile from Sarah, who clung tightly to Max's leash, as if drawing strength from his unwavering presence. In a lighthearted yet meaningful gesture, Judge Whittaker concluded by jokingly suggesting that Max deserved recognition for his efforts. "If we gave medals to dogs, young man," she said, nodding toward Max, "you'd certainly earn one today." The comment elicited chuckles throughout the courtroom, breaking some of the lingering tension and underscoring the shared humanity of the moment. A nation watches and reflects. Outside the courthouse, the media frenzy reached new heights as reporters clamored to capture reactions from those involved. Sarah and her family emerged cautiously, shielding themselves from the barrage of questions, with Max steadfastly by their side. Despite the chaos, Sarah managed a shy wave before retreating into her mother's embrace. It was evident that the ordeal had taken its toll, but there was also a sense of relief, a weight lifted now that the trial was over. The public response to the case was overwhelmingly positive, with many praising Sarah's courage and Max's loyalty. Social media platforms buzzed with tributes to the golden retriever, whose intuitive actions had become a symbol of unconditional love and support. Pet adoption agencies reported a surge in inquiries, with countless people inspired to adopt dogs like Max. Meanwhile, advocacy groups seized the opportunity to highlight the importance of emotional support animals in helping children navigate trauma and adversity. However, not everyone viewed the outcome through rose-tinted glasses. Critics argued that Judge Whittaker's lenient ruling might set a dangerous precedent, potentially encouraging similar defenses in future cases. Others questioned whether relying so heavily on an animal for emotional support absolved parents of their responsibilities. These debates sparked broader discussions about systemic issues within the child welfare system, including inadequate resources for struggling families and the need for more nuanced approaches to addressing neglect. Despite these criticisms, the overwhelming consensus was that the case represented a rare triumph of compassion over rigidity. By acknowledging the realities of Sarah's life and the unique dynamics of her household, Judge Whittaker demonstrated that justice doesn't always require harsh consequences. It can also involve understanding, education, and second chances. For Sarah, the resolution marked the start of a new chapter filled with hope and healing. With the trial behind her, she could focus on rebuilding her relationship with her father and moving forward without the constant fear of separation. James, humbled by the experience, vowed to prioritize his daughter's needs above all else. He attended every parenting class session diligently, often bringing Max along as a reminder of the lessons they had learned together. Max, of course, remained the steadfast center of Sarah's world. His role as her protector and confidant had only grown stronger in the wake of the trial, cementing their bond even further. Neighbors frequently commented on how inseparable the two were, noting that Max seemed to anticipate Sarah's moods and respond accordingly. Whether accompanying her to school, playing fetch in the backyard, or simply lounging on the couch during quiet evenings, Max continued to embody the qualities that made him so extraordinary: loyalty, intelligence, and boundless affection. Sarah's teachers noticed a change in her demeanor as well. Once reserved and withdrawn, she began participating more actively in class discussions and forming friendships with her peers. Art projects depicting scenes of home often featured Max prominently, a testament to the comfort and security he provided. When asked about her dog during a school presentation, Sarah proudly declared, "Max isn't just my pet. He's my best friend." Reflecting on the case months later, Judge Whittaker admitted that it had left an enduring impression on her. As judges, we're tasked with upholding the law, she explained in an interview with a local news outlet. But sometimes the law alone isn't enough. We have to look beyond statutes and procedures to see the people affected by our decisions, their fears, their hopes, and yes, even their dogs. The trial also highlighted the transformative power of storytelling. In sharing Sarah and Max's journey, the case reminded society of the importance of listening, not just to words but to actions, gestures, and unspoken connections. It challenged conventional notions of evidence and credibility, urging observers to consider the full scope of a child's experience when determining their best interests. Perhaps most importantly, the case underscored the profound impact of kindness and creativity in problem-solving. By allowing Max to remain in the courtroom and recognizing his contributions, Judge Whittaker opened the door to innovative solutions that prioritized empathy over punishment. In doing so, she reaffirmed faith in the justice system's ability to adapt and evolve, even in the face of unprecedented challenges. The legacy of love. Years later, Sarah would remember the trial not as a source of pain, but as a defining moment in her life, one that taught her the value of truth, trust, and resilience. And whenever she recounted the story, she always ended with the same sentiment: "If it weren't for Max, I don't think I could have done it. He didn't just save me that day. He showed everyone that love comes in all shapes and sizes, even four-legged ones." In the end, Sarah and Max's story transcended the confines of a courtroom, becoming a beacon of hope for anyone navigating the complexities of life. It reminded us that sometimes the smallest gestures, a nudge, a whine, a wag of a tail, can make the biggest difference. And in a world often clouded by uncertainty, Their bond served as a shining example of the power of connection to heal, inspire, and transform.